In a series of Indian history classes that we have discussed so far, we have seen Stone Ages, we have seen Indus Valley Civilization, Harappa, we have also seen Vedic, later Vedic, Buddhism, Jainism. The story till now is actually what I call the formation part, the prehistory, proto-history. But now what we are going to see from today is the core history. In the later Vedic period, when I was talking to you about later Vedic civilization, we were generally discussing about a tradition called land became an important concept. Land based settlements, land based survival. As land became important and as people started to move away from Indus Valley civilization to Ganga, Yamuna, Doab region, we see the development of Janapadas. Janapada basically means a tribal state settlement. Initially there were many Janapadas, but by the time of 600 BC, we see formation of 16 great tribal republics or tribal states. 16 great tribal states known as Mahajanapadas. Some books will also call this 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 Mahajanapadas. 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 means 16. 16 great kingdoms. Some of these kingdoms were monarchies, some were tribal republics where the head of the state was elected. For example, 𝗕𝗗𝗍𝗪 state, the kingdom, the state, the government of the tribe of Buddha was actually a tribal elected republic. Suddhodana, Buddha's father, was actually an elected king, whereas Magadha was a monarchy. So Mahajanapadas were of two types, monarchies and republics. Generally there were 16 of them: Kambhoja, Gandhara, Kuru, Panchala, Kosala, Malla, Shauraseni, Vatsa, Kasi, Magadha, Vrijji, Avanti, Assaki. Now for us in Telangana, you know the Bodhan region. Bodhan region is basically the ancient Asmaki kingdom, the Assaki kingdom or Asmaki kingdom. Generally during the Mahajanapada period, always remember, the center of India, the center of civilization slightly moved towards Patliputra, towards the central, towards Patliputra. As I said, Mahajanapada, totally these were tribal states, in number 16. By 450 BC, over 40 Janapadas covering areas as distant as Afghanistan and Southeastern Central Asia are mentioned by Panini in his book Ashtadhyayi. Panini says in the later Vedic period, the tribal settlements slowly created Janapadas, means tribal territories or tribal kingdoms, more than 40 of them. From these 40s, few tribal republics merged with each other, few split with each other and eventually formed Mahajanapadas. Large states or large countries, 16 of them mainly in upper and middle Gangetic plains, including the Doab region, the Ganga, Yamuna, Doab region. They are commonly called 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 Mahajanapada. Even among these 16, every kingdom was not powerful. For example, Kambhoja with capital Raipur, Gandhara with capital Taxila, Hastinapura's Kuru, Kampilia Panchala, Shravasti of Kosala. Among these, all of these were not very strong. Magadha with Patliputra, Vaishali or Vrijji Kashi Varanasi, Avanti Ujjain, Champa Anga. These were few strong big kingdoms. You don't need to remember all the 16, they are not required for your exam, but remember, while everybody were not the greatest, few of them remained the strongest, like Magadha. The kingdom of Magadha, which included today's Patna, Gaya, parts of Shahabad region of Bihar, was a big kingdom. Same way Lichavis, mostly in the India-Nepal border section. Kashi with its capital Varanasi. Kashi was a very important trading center even in those days. Kosala with its capital Shravasthi. Again, very, very important trading settlement. If you observe, many of these were trading settlements. This is what historians have consistently called the period of second urbanization. See, the first urbanization was Indus Valley civilization. The second urbanization is the growth of the Mahajanapadas. These are the 16 Mahajanapadas for your references. Their domination in India remained from 600 BC to 501 BC approximately. Eventually, even among these 16, they fought among themselves. The last survivor was Magadha. Magadha dominated. There are few reasons to why Magadha dominated. There were geographical reasons, strategic reasons, and eventually Magadha is what became Mauryan Empire. Magadha capital was Rajagriha and Patliputra, and from Patliputra started the Mauryan dynasty, the Mauryan civilization. Okay. As I said, 16 kingdoms. Among these, Magadha, Kosala, Vatsa, Avanti. These were the strongest. Magadha, Kosala, Vatsa, Avanti. They were the strongest. Now remember this always. Some of these were monarchies, some of these were Ganasanghas or oligarchical assemblies or oligarchical republics. The word oligarchical republics means the head of the state is still elected, like a king is elected, but he comes only from a selected few families. So it would be wrong to say these Ganasanghas or tribal republics as a pure form of democracy. It was not a pure form of democracy. It was still oligarchy. Among these also, Magadha remained the most powerful. Magadha had borders in the north, Ganga, in the west, Son river, in the south, Vindhya mountains, in the east, the Champa river region. Four big guys: Kosala, Avanti, Magadha, Vatsa. They kept fighting among themselves, and even from among these four, Magadha emerged the most victorious. If you see, by approximately 490 BC, Magadha was the strongest. Magadha was the ultimate power. It started to occupy, it started to expand into other Mahajanapadas and occupied all of them. One of the earliest kings of Magadhan state in historic records that we hear is Brihadratha. He is the son of Jarasandha. Jarasandha is the king who is referred to in our Mahabharata. Remember, in Mahabharata there is a mention about Jarasandha who was killed by Bhima. It is believed that Brihadratha, son of Jarasandha, is the founder of the Magadhan state, as mentioned in Rigveda. The Brihadratha dynasty was then followed by Pratyodha dynasty. It was the first dynasty to follow patricide. Patricide is a practice of son killing the father in order to take over the kingdom. We do know a little bit of information about these two, but not every information. But we have good amount of sources to study about the third Magadhan dynasty, the Haryanka dynasty. Haryanka dynasty was established or made into an empire by Bimbisara, who ruled from 544 BC to 492 BC. Bimbisara, a contemporary king of Buddha and Mahavira. Now, Bimbisara was able to make Magadhan state the greatest state, and he used a three-pronged strategy. With big rulers who were as big as or as strong as Bimbisara himself. He made friendships. With many other kings, he used matrimony as a way of expansion. Basically, he married, he had marriages. Remember, the society was a polygamous society, right? Multiple marriages were always a common practice. So, Bimbisara married multiple women from different kingdoms. And whenever there was a weak or a incapable king, he basically eliminated them. He got them removed from the state. Magadha, we will say a little more detail about individual kings. There are 3 dynasties in Magadhan Empire, in Magadha period, from 544 BC up until 321 BC. 3 dynasties: the Haryanka dynasty, Shishunaga dynasty, the Nanda dynasty. Haryanka, Shishunaga, Nanda sequence. Haryanka 1, Shishunaga 2, Nanda 3. In Haryanka, Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, Udayana. We know these guys. In Shishunaga, 𝗓𝗏. In Nanda dynasty, we know about Mahapadmananda and Dhanananda. For your references, always remember, we only don't know the names of these kings. Apart from these, there were many kings in Magadhan Empire. We don't know their names or we don't refer to them much. They are not significant contributors. For the entire 6th century, 5th century, up until approximately 4th century, even up until 301, Magadha remained the most powerful and prosperous kingdom. Few reasons for this: strategic and geography. Both the reasons. There were strategic reasons, like Magadha consistently had very capable kings. Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, Udayana, Shishunaga, 𝗓𝗏, Mahapadmananda, Navananda, Dhanananda, all great kings who did extensive amount of contribution for the growth and development of the Magadhan state. At the same time, the geography. Magadha was located in a perfectly geographical advantageous location. It was a very fertile land located between upper and lower Gangetic Valley. It had extensive amount of iron ores, particularly in its capital Rajagriha. And Rajagriha was a mountain surrounded city or a settlement. So, it was completely naturally protected. Literally, it had a natural fort. It was literally a natural fort. Copper and iron deposits were used extensively in Magadhan state. Copper and iron ore. The kings and the dynasties that we see in Magadhan state: Brihadratha dynasty, remember, Jarasanda's son. Pratyodha dynasty, no information. Haryanka dynasty, 3 of them: Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, Udayana. Shishunaga dynasty, 2 kings: Shishunaga, 𝗓𝗏. Nanda dynasty, 2 kings: Mahapadmananda, Dhanananda. Eventually, Nandas were replaced by Mauryas, Chandragupta Maurya, until 321 BC from 544 BC. This is the period of Magadhan Empire, and we are going to see some of these in detail. Haryanka started the Magadhan dynasty, Magadhan Empire. Shishunagas expanded it. Nandas took it to further expansion and took it to the peak. And late Nandas, we see a decline in the Magadhan authority. The founder of the Magadhan state is Bimbisara. Bimbisara, probably the founder of Haryanka dynasty. Now, in the beginning itself, I told you Bimbisara used matrimonial alliances and military expeditions, expansions, as 2 strategies to expand his kingdom. He had 4 wives. Most important of them, Kosala Devi. She brought Kasi as dowry. She was actually sister of Prasenjit. Sister of Prasenjit of Kasi. And Vaishali, if you remember when I was talking to you about Jainism, I told you Chellana, daughter of Chetaka, was Bimbisara's wife. This Chetaka is actually the brother of Trishala Devi. Trishala Devi is the mother of Mahavira. Vardhamana Mahavira's mother Trishala Devi. Trishala Devi's brother Chetaka. Chetaka's daughter Chellana. Chellana is married to Bimbisara. With this, he was able to bring a large part of the Licchavi region, particularly Mithila region, Nepal border, Bihar Nepal border, Terai region into his control. So we see 4 wives. Mahakosala or Kosala Devi, she is the sister of Prasenjit. Mahadevi Chellana, she was the daughter of Chetaka. Vaidehi, daughter of Madra. Madra was probably a king in Punjab. We actually have reference about a 4th wife called Khema. Now, the names of these wives change from book to book, historian to historian. These are the 4 names given in NCERT book of R.S. Sharma. Bimbisara ruled from 544 BC to 492 BC. His capital was Girivraja or Rajagriha. He defeated Avanti, Anga kingdoms, conquered them, ended their challenge. Bimbisara, since he was also from the Magadhan state, in Magadhan state they used to do patricide. Bimbisara was killed by his son Ajatashatru. Bimbisara, as I referred previously also, he was a contemporary of both Mahavira and Siddhartha or Buddha. So both Buddhists and Jains claim Bimbisara to be theirs, and Buddhists say Bimbisara was a Buddhist, Jains say Bimbisara was a Jain. Probably he was contemporary of both of them. And the war-wise, Anga, the ruler was a ruler of Anga whom Bimbisara defeated was Brahmadatta. He defeated him, completely conquered. It is believed that Bimbisara's father was defeated by Brahmadatta. So Bimbisara took a revenge. Similarly, Ujjain. Mahasena Chandrapratyodha of Ujjain was defeated. Bimbisara attacked him. Some books say there was no result. Some books say there was peace. But one thing we know that there was a physician called Jivaka who was sent to Ujjain by Bimbisara. Bimbisara sent his physician Jivaka to Ujjain to cure a disease to Chandrapratyodha Mahasena. Bimbisara's capital, as I said multiple times, is Girivraja or Rajagriha, present day Rajgir. Bimbisara was able to establish the first fully standing army in Magadha. Sometimes he is also called Shreniya, means a strategist. Thanks to his location of Rajagriha, which was surrounded by 5 mountains, Rajagriha was actually impregnable, means unbreakable. It was literally a natural fort. Bimbisara also established a perfect, excellent administrative system where he divided officers into 3 categories: executive, military and judiciary. You have to understand, I am talking about 6th century BC. Having an administrative setup in 6th century BC was a big achievement. Bimbisara's son Ajatashatru, he was actually a Buddhist follower strictly. He even conducted first Buddhist council. When we saw Buddhism in the councils, you will see his name as first. During his period, he had a consistent war with Licchavis, particularly Prasenjit. It is believed, given that Ajatashatru killed his father, Prasenjit attacked Ajatashatru. 16-year war between 𝗪𝗁𝗔𝗬 Prasenjit and Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru conducted the first Buddhist council, and finally he was able to defeat 𝗪𝗁𝗔𝗬's state. Prasenjit was completely defeated. Bimbisara, Ajatashatru also continued his father Bimbisara's heritage, where he also defeated Kosala, took back Kasi, took back all the power from Prasenjit. Magadhan Empire was taken to the next level. Anga, Avanti were added by Bimbisara. 𝗪𝗁𝗔𝗬, Kosala were added by Ajatashatru. Now, Ajatashatru is generally referred to as an extremely aggressive ruler. The reason for that is Ajatashatru seems to have been the inventor of the two weaponry, artillery weapons of that period, Rathamusala and Mahashilakantaka. Rathamusala is basically a chariot with a rotating blade. Now this is the thing which you actually see in that Bahubali movie, that is real. Ajatashatru seems to have created it. He had this. A horse or a bull is tied in the front. It has a rotating mace. It is generally known for mass killings in the battles. And then catapult, stone thrower, to hurl stones at enemy, particularly enemy forts. Both of these were developed by Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru was also killed by his father, by his son. Ajatashatru continued Rajagriha as the capital. He established Patliputra as a city. Remember, a word of caution, Patliputra as a city was established by Ajatashatru. It was not his capital. His capital was still Rajagriha. Ajatashatru was killed by his son Udayana, who ruled from 460 BC to 444 BC. Udayana's or 𝗪𝗏𝗓𝗔's greatest achievement in life was killing his father and moving capital to Patliputra. Apart from this, nothing much. After Udayana, there were a couple of kings in the Haryanka dynasty of Magadha. The last Haryanka king was Nagadasaka, who was himself killed by his military general and chief Shishunaga. Okay. So Udayana, son of Ajatashatru, his only achievement, as I said, is shifted the capital to Patliputra. He was the last major Haryanka ruler, but after him we don't see much of things happening in the Haryanka dynasty. Haryanka has completely declined. Udayana's reign sees Patliputra becoming a very important fort. Patliputra, that's why is also called Jaladurga, because it is actually at the confluence of Ganga and Son river. Finally, Aniruddha, Manda, Nagadasaka were the last three Haryanka kings, and Nagadasaka was himself overthrown by Shishunaga, who brought the next dynasty of Magadhas, the Shishunaga dynasty. Exact details of the Shishunaga dynasty are actually missing. We don't have much information. We know only about two kings in Shishunaga dynasty, Shishunaga himself and Kalashoka. It is actually Sri Lankan chronicles, Sri Lankan books, 𝗕𝗏𝗪𝗠, Mahavamsam, which actually give us details about Shishunaga kingdoms. Overall, Shishunaga dynasty ruled from 413 BC to 345 BC. Not just a Shishunaga king, the dynasty, the family itself ruled from 413 BC to 345 BC. Shishunaga was most probably an Amatya, a high-ranking official located in Varanasi in the Haryanka dynasty. He eventually became viceroy of Kasi, but Shishunaga did not like probably the last Haryanka king Nagadasaka and overthrew him. Shishunaga destroyed the Haryanka power. He was the commander-in-chief of Nagadasaka. During Shishunaga's period, the capital was moved to Vaishali state. Shishunaga's greatest achievement was annexation of Avanti, complete destruction and occupation of Avanti. Shishunaga as a king was followed by his son Kalashoka. Buddhist books, particularly of Sri Lanka, 𝗕𝗏𝗪𝗠 and Mahavamsam, 𝗕𝗏𝗪𝗠 and Mahavamsam refer to Kalashoka as Kakavarna. Kakavarna means dark colored. We believe after Kala-Ashoka, 10 kings ruled the dynasty up until approximately 345 BC, and eventually Shishunagas were themselves overthrown by the Nanda rule. The last Shishunaga king is Mahananda. The last Shishunaga king is Mahananda, and Mahananda was overthrown by the Mahapadmananda. Now there is one theory which is given. We believe, historians believe, that Mahapadmananda was actually the illegitimate son of Mahananda. Last Shishunaga was Mahananda. He was overthrown by Padmananda. Mahapadmananda, also called Ugrasena, he is also known as 𝗪𝗏 means uprooter of Kshatriyas, because Mahapadmananda is believed to be the first Shudra king. Historians even call him Adharmika-putra of the Shishunaga dynasty. He was the first empire builder in India. His origins, according to Puranas, was that he was son of the last Shishunaga king from a Shudra woman. Greek writer Curtius and Jain texts says he was actually son of a barber and a courtesan. So whatever it is, he was definitely not a Kshatriya. That's what all historical books of this period refer to. Mahapadmananda created one of the biggest armies. He is literally called Ugrasena because of his very strong control and having control over one of the largest armies. When I say largest armies, I am talking about an army as big as 3.5 lakh people. The empire grew completely under his region. It ran all the way from Kuru, which is Delhi area, up until the north of Godavari. Big, almost entire north and central India, and in the south, Magadha, Narmada in the west, and Magadha in the east. So we are talking about a kingdom as big as this. Kuru, Bengal, Ujjain, Narmada. That big. I'm talking about a huge place. Conquered many kings. He even occupied Kalinga for a brief period. Mahapadmananda, as I said, he is generally referred to as Adharmika-putra of the Shishunaga dynasty. He had almost 3 lakh army. He is also called 𝗪𝗏. Mahapadmananda ruled almost for a long period. After him, we believe there were 9 Nanda kings called Navanandas. The last Nanda king was Dhanananda. By this time, by 326 BC, when Dhanananda was actually in power, Greeks had already come to India's northwest border. Alexander and people have already come. They used to refer him as Agramas or Xandramas. This is the Greek name given to Dhanananda. When Dhanananda was the ruler, Alexander invaded northwest India. Generally, Ptolemy, Ptolemy, Ptolemy was a Greek historian of this period. Ptolemy generally says Dhanananda was an extremely arrogant, oppressive ruler. He was opposed by his people, and the people were headed by a very small, relatively unknown chief or unknown Amatya, bureaucrat. His name was Chanakya. Eventually, Chanakya, who used to work under Dhanananda, revolted against Dhanananda. When the first revolt failed, Chanakya was sent to Taxila. In Taxila, Chanakya met Chandragupta Maurya, a very young boy. Chanakya, Chandragupta together devised a strategy, and by 321 BC, Chanakya, Chandragupta together overthrew the Nanda Empire and the Nanda dynasty. Nandas, who came to power somewhere about 345 BC, continued for almost 24 years. They were vanquished in 321 BC. And primary reason why they were vanquished is Nandas had a very big country, very big army, but they never really had a well established administrative setup which was needed to run such a big country. Also, the last Nanda, Dhanananda, was extremely arrogant and aggressive. Finally, it is this Chandragupta who established the Mauryan Empire. So, the kingdoms that we have seen, Haryanka dynasty, Shishanaga dynasty, Nanda dynasty. Haryankas, Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, Udayana. Eventually, last Haryanka is Nagadasaka. Nagadasaka overthrown by Shishanaga, who was his commander-in-chief, in charge of army. Shishanaga was followed by Kalashoka. After Kalashoka, there were 10 kings in Shishanaga dynasty. Last Shishanaga, Mahananda. Mahananda killed by Padmananda, who became Mahapadmananda. Mahapadmananda was followed by Dhanananda. Dhanananda was finally overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya. This is the information about the political history of Magadhan dynasty. Now, there are particular reasons to how Magadha became the strongest power, and this also remains the main reason for how Magadhas transform into the Mauryan Empire. That's it in this session about the Magadhas and Mahajanapadas. Thank you. Bye-bye.